it is
just me?
not false. I can tell you categorically that about two years ago, I would have spoken to a couple taxi drivers, and they were not speaking secondhand. They actually identified areas in which people were delivered to accommodation, names of contacts, medical personnel, and so on would have been shared with me. And in fact, there is online.
A racket. There's a racket then.
Yeah, yes,
That's
there
called
is
a
online
racket. Call it what it is. It's a racket.
a racket. There is online a Nigerian woman
Jeez, hombre.
Yes,
speaking to the benefits of this, because you see, at the end of the day, this person may be encouraging people to do it, not knowing that it is a racket in Barbados. But then, so that is not. I would say this, and to critics, because as I listen to extracts of because I started to listen to the Prime Minister, then I came on the show last night, so I have to go back and listen to that part that I missed. But then I listened to the extracts carried in the news, and I smiled because I said, for those people who rushed to the defense of the government and sought to vilify us, let me put it that way. In fact, today the young man talked about hysteria. What was it? He said not hysteria. Something like that. Suggesting that you again a form of noise. Let me put it that way. And I had to ask him if that was intended to describe my contribution, because I don't take my calls to programs like I don't take what I say on on these shows lightly. I do my research. I come from a position of seeking to say and do what's right for Barbadians. But before, I've been looking at the time, and there's one thing, because I just wanted to share this, because as I spoke about persons from South America coming here, whether as on the managed migration program to work or free movement or whatever. For the years that I served as foreign minister and subsequent to that, Barbadians in the diaspora have always queried, what are you doing for our descendants, our children and our children's children? And I know that one of the things that was contemplated, certainly before I left office, was the whole issue of fast tracking them. So as I read the citizenship bill, it warmed my heart. And I would read that provision, because if it's something that is in here that I'm happy to see, and I trust it will stay there, is in part 2 under the section titled acquisition of citizenship. And it says additional grounds of citizenship and registration of certain persons as citizens. Section 3.2 says, subject to section 4, a person who was born outside of Barbados and who is a grandchild or great-grandchild of a citizen of Barbados may, upon application to the minister in the prescribed form and on payment of the prescribed fee, be registered as a citizen of Barbados. And this, I think, will warm the hearts of many Barbadians.
Yes.
Initially, the automatic thing was just one generation. This has now gone down to the second and the third generation.
Thank God.
So,
I mean,
my
commend them for that.
Can now apply when this becomes law, or for all of us who have siblings and cousins and relatives and friends in the UK and the US and wherever. Because if you're opening the doors to others, the question always was, why
open the door
to our own, restrict our own.
Yeah.
So that, to my mind, is
a good
bright
thing
spot in this citizenship bill. I must tell you that I heard, in fact, today when I was discussing the 2 pieces of legislation, immigration and citizenship, the moderator was diverted to speak to this. I had not seen it. Because he was saying there's an ongoing discussion on social media, which I was not aware of. But again, on the surface, as I read this sounds like utter madness. And my question is, what is the rationale for? I mean, okay, any person who, when called upon to aid and assist a member of the service, meaning the police service, who,
Right.
while in the execution of his duty, is assaulted or resisted, or in danger of being assaulted or resisted, refuses or neglects to aid and assist a member of the service, is guilty of an offense. Now, let me look at a practical scenario. And so you're saying on summary conviction to a fine of
$10,000 or 1 year or both.
My question is, if I am called upon to assist, does the officer who needs assistance know whether I am able to assist? What are the circumstances? Let's say that the person has some kind of serious weapon or whatever the case may be. I would want to hear from the Attorney General, the Prime Minister, and their cabinet colleagues and parliamentary group explain to us the thinking behind this and why it is. Now, if you are telling me that you are going to find somebody for preventing an officer
from executing
carrying out his or her duty, that's a different story, because I watched some videos that I find particularly distressing, where police officers are seeking to carry out their duty and citizens or persons around them seek to taunt, to prevent, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So my question is, what's the thinking behind this? Here with you gentlemen and Barbados, what we did as cabinet very early, and I've spoken about this on the show, I'm sure previously, very early, and it was soon after we came into office. Prime Minister Thompson took the decision, look, it makes no sense, because this is probably what happens now too. I don't know. I can only hazard a guess. When we came into office on Wednesdays, you got, and Glenn, you can tell me what happened. You got a big stack. You can literally get a stack of cabinet papers, a thick folder, or maybe a couple of those foil jackets, stacks of papers on a Wednesday evening to come to cabinet a Thursday morning to discuss what might be routine things or complex pieces of legislation like this. And the decision was, no, this is not practical. This is not conducive to efficient and effective analysis and discussion. So subcommittees were set up. You had a committee of governance, so legislation would go to something on infrastructure, and you had those kind of projects. You had social what do they call it, social care.
Sure.
But things like matters related to welfare,
right.
education, whatever, and economic matters. So you had these 4 committees. So once the legislation came, you looked at them. This is complex. It goes to this committee, that one. And the important thing was that it wasn't just a committee of a subset of cabinet. The committee could call on, first of all, a permanent secretary, a minister would have his or her technical people come in to present the paper. If you needed somebody from the SG, the Solicitor General's office or whatever, those legal people would be present, and you can bring people. So you discussed it. So something like this, somebody would challenge it and say, "No, how legal is this? How sensible is this? How realistic is this? What risk are you putting citizens to? Where did you draw this from? Was the rationale for this?" And so you would have those discussions, and it would either be recommended take that up, or it makes no sense.
Cause the government to want to hurry things through in this manner. I just can't think of any other reason.
I am blaming it on that. What I gonna blame it on is, well, I see more internal, that maybe she wants to get some things done because she wants to call elections. The Prime Minister, from what I am told, is not in favor of a 5-year term. She prefers something shorter. But my position is this: whatever your agenda, if in this case haste makes waste, you are rushing. I just think that people, and Glenn touched on something. Before cabinet papers come to cabinet, they all go to the cabinet secretary in the cabinet office, right? The prime minister, the prime minister has a say on what comes,
Right.
and so there's that oversight outside of the certification. In other words, there's set of what I would call checks and balances
Right.
that normally would obtain before the legislation comes to the cabinet office to be brought to cabinet. The Attorney General signs off on it. Now, the Attorney General, in my day, read a piece of legislation, wrote word by word, line by line, page by page. And I mean, and I would have heard comments made to that effect and cautions given that when this thing comes, it's supposed to be ready. Now, if that is not done, first of all, and remember I talked about process, purpose, proper
Yes,
process,
yes, I wrote it.
and particulars, the content.
Yes.
When
Purpose,
I see
processes, and particulars.
When I see these things come, I have to ask the learned attorney jargon, use the language that lawyers like to use, Glenn. Did you read this? Did you read this? Did you agree that this was important? No, the thing about it is this: the police service comes on to what? The Home Affairs.
It would have to be
Home Affairs.
Home Affairs
No.
ministers, and in part because So I would ask the question beyond the Attorney General, because he has the oversight of the getting the word into proper legal form, etc. But the instructions, the drafting instructions, which speak to the particulars, the content, the substance, the subject of the legislation, comes from the particular minister and ministry.
That's right.
If it was something about education, the minister, or in this case, the ministers of education, I hear Minister Education Transformation, whatever it is, those two ministers would be the two people I would say have initial responsibility to make sure that the content is there. So if it came from agriculture, Minister of Agriculture, if it came from tourism, so I don't understand. And then, so once it is, just give me a second, let me finish. Then it gets certified, it goes to the cabinet office, and between the people in the cabinet office, which is part of the office of the prime minister, falls under the prime minister's responsibilities, then determines, so I think there are multiple points of failure, and all of them.
Maxine, is this really failure? Is this really failure? I want to question.
It's neglect, it's failure, it is lack of knowledge. I don't know. It's just something wrong.
No. I want to go a different route.
Okay, go ahead.
I really want to go a different route.
Please do.
Because I'm seeing convenient design.
Okay, that too.